This is SPY. Here are your price targets for Wednesday. We ended the day at $507.18, down 1%. This is where we are. To the north side takes us to resistance at the middle of the trend, and that is roughly 509.93. A gap opens at roughly 510.35, closes out at 512.26. Another level of resistance and potential take profit area includes 515.10, 517.71, and at 4 standard deviations, roughly 520.27. And from where we are, I do not anticipate we hit this level. And should we wick up there, and I will anticipate a pullback as people take their profits and they run. So again, I don't expect it to get to this line, but if they do, it's going to crash after that. Now, to the south side, at -2 standard deviations and 1 level of support, 504.98. A gap forms to the south side at 502.99, 502.27, 499.69, and that gap closes out at 497.38. And note, back here, support, a bounce up to the middle of the trend, and from where we were, this turns into resistance and then fell back down to support, went sideways, busted through the middle of the trend where price always goes before it either hits to the north side or falls to the south side. And in this case, we busted through up to resistance, fell back down to support. And our next target will be resistance at the middle of the trend. It will change depending upon where we are. The next one I want to go over is Palantir. Thank you to Trader Murat for pointing that out. And I'm going to go over Apple and Google also because of his suggestion. He told me that Tom Nash just did a video on Palantir with another expert here. And his name is Sachin. And they had a fantastic discussion on Palantir, where they think it's going in the future, and what the company does. And Murat asked him a question, and Tom answered it right here. So very cool. So I just wanted to point that out to you. And so I'm going to go over Palantir. Oh, by the way, you can hear him speak to Murat in Russian at about 33 minutes and 40 seconds in. And I never got a chance to listen to the entire video. So tomorrow or the next day, I'll finish the second half of that. Back to Palantir on the chart. Oops, stay on. Option. It's Option R if you're on a MacBook to reset the chart. All right, we are right here. We ended the day at 23.81, down nearly 1%. The day's low, 23.43. The day's high, 24.41. To the north side takes us to resistance and a potential take profit area, 24.24. Let me extend this right now. Three standard deviations is 24.53. This gap opens up at 24.59. 24.81. The gap closes out at 24.92. To the south side, because there's always a south side, back to the middle of the trend, and in this case, support 23.67. 23.08. which lines up with this gap that starts at roughly 23.07, 23.08-ish. And this is my buy-in area, or one of them anyway. I think the lowest I picked it up was at 10 on this one. All right, the next level takes us to this gap closure at 22.78, and the next level of support and a potential buy-in area as well, 22.51, the RSI going straight down. And on the, let's show you the daily. I can't show you what this chart looks like. Oops. Control, Command Z. No, yeah, Command Z. Wait a minute. Apparently, I sold some here as well a long time ago on the daily here. Okay, 1073 is the last time I picked it up, or the lowest, excuse me, the lowest that I picked it up. So I'm up on this stock, but we do have a gap that takes us down to $7.76. I think those days are long gone, but should we get down there, you may want to consider getting in if you haven't already. But the RSI is going down on the daily, on the weekly, going down, and on the monthly, going down as well. I think I'm up right now roughly 40% on PLTR. I do not plan on selling any of the old shares, but I do plan on buying more if it comes down into my buy zone. I'm going to be very patient, and right now it is not in my buy zone, so I'm going to pass on this one. And the next one I want to go over is Apple and then Google. Marat said to check out the 10-year chart. And first, let me give you the price targets for Apple on the 5-minute time frame. Option R there. All right, we ended the day at 170.10. Down nearly 5%. Excuse me. Down nearly 3%, down $4.98 a share. All right, this is where we are. To the north side takes us to a gap starting at 172.05, 172.18. At 3 standard deviations, 173.55. This gap closes out at 4 standard deviations, roughly 175.01. Another gap closure at 179.61. Apple is in my gap and go trades for this week. And we've got a closure down all the way to 160.29. We are not in this channel, not in the zone, so I do not anticipate this to close out whatsoever on Wednesday. But if we continue to go south, this could touch on Wednesday, maybe Thursday, if we continue to go in this direction. And there are other gaps to the south side too on Apple. But on the daily time frame, I cannot show you this on the weekly or the monthly. My chart gets too wonky because of how the calculations are made on the linear now. They've changed it, and so it looks terrible. I don't like it whatsoever, as you may know. I've talked about it many times, but we do have a gap here I see at 96.17. I am deeply, deeply, deeply invested in Apple and Microsoft. So Marat says to take a look 10 years out. So let's move this to 2014, roughly. I'm just going to make some big observations here. So note, sell-off at resistance down to support. And in this case, this is the middle of the trend where price always goes through to get to the south side or passes through it to get to the north side. So we go here, we grind, and we finally bounce up to resistance, falling back to support, grinding our way up back to the middle of the trend. And from here to here, this is resistance. It sells off back to support, back to resistance, support, resistance, grinding along the line here. And now it gets bad just because of my markings. But we are right here. We are at support now on the daily time frame. Oops, come on, there we go. And taking a look at the RSI, look at this. We are tanking I will anticipate a reversal soon. Looking back on the RSI, we've gone as low as 20, so we're close. I think 20, nope, that's 17. So we could go down even more, and obviously even past 17, but I think this thing will be scooped up. But that is not a buy-in area for me. 170 is still too rich for me because I've bought it obviously lower, and I don't need any more Apple. I need to buy other things to spread my basket of stocks. All right, we are still going down on the weekly, not in the oversold area yet, but going down. And on the monthly, unfortunately, going down. But if you look at the RSI on the monthly, you must expect price to fall in line with the RSI. Look at this. This is overextended. What happens down to, I just use this as support and resistance, just very basic. And then oversold, overbought, obviously. But going down from this resistance area, of course it's going down to go to support. Back up, back down, back up, back down. The cycle repeats itself. And so now the next cycle could be all the way down to what, right here, 32. Nope, we touched right here at 30-ish. So if we get down to that level, then I would be a buyer. And then I would consider for myself getting more, but I don't need any more of this. I'd rather buy Palantir at the right price for me, because that to me is a stock that I would buy as I did when I bought Apple. Like, I would go all in with that. All right, now I'm going to go over to the 5-minute and take a look at Google. Talked about this one many times. Note the price going down from the last time I looked, just at price only. All right, we are at 132.67, down 0.5%. Option R, just to reset that so you can see it better. All right, resistance takes us to 134.05, 135.41, 135.66. This gap opens. 136.81, and then 137.02 is where I anticipate this will close out. This will close out at resistance. And what happens at resistance? People take their profits and they run, they lock in, and they leave. So I will anticipate that if it happens. And we are pretty close to this level. I don't know if we're going to close this out on Wednesday, but if we do, wonderful. But don't expect it. I do expect it to go to this level and even here, because we are pretty close. I do not expect it to go down to this level, even though we are overextended and we will go down. So if we rise up and hit this level, it will slam us right back down, because this is going to get overextended and go right back down as well. Now, on the daily, let me see, I've tracked this on the way up and now possibly on the way down. So basically an upside down V shape there. So let's go back to, there's 2014, 2015-ish. But let's just, and obviously the calculations move, but from right here, you can see we go up to resistance, fall back down, close to support, grinding along the middle of the trend, up to resistance, falling back down to support, the middle of the line, grinding, making our way up to resistance, falling back to support, back to resistance, falling back down, back up to this line, grinding along, falling back down to support, resistance, falling back down. There's an opportunity for a gap closure, and that closed out at 137.91. And then we tanked off of resistance, And then we made our way back up, and now we've tanked there, made our way back up to the middle of the trend, and from down here to resistance, okay, and falling back down, slamming us down to resistance, to support. This is support, support, support. These are outliers, and for me, a buy signal. And up here, should we be so lucky as to get to this line, or this line, that for me is a clear signal to sell and get out, unless, of course, you are investing and holding this long term. You set it and forget it. But if you're day trading, swing trading, scalping, but if obviously you're not scalping on the daily, but if you're doing that, then you want to pay attention to support and resistance. All right, RSI going down. If we get down to this level, then it piques my interest. But it piques my interest more so when I see that happening on the monthly time frame. There's the daily. Okay. And then, that was the daily. This is the weekly. And note, I could have told you right here, crash. I'm going to expect a crash and burn right down to support, back up. Couldn't make it up to here. Fell back down and then up to here. Just look left. Every time you hit the overextended area, it's going to crash. It just does. The cycle repeats itself. The answer that you need is in the charts. You know exactly where it's going. You can anticipate. On the weekly, the monthly here, going down. So we've been in this overextended area, going back down, trying to go back up, chopping sideways, but I expect it to go down. The 1-year price target, though, is 164.46. So overall, in the big picture, the analysts think that we're going to go up. Let's go back to the 5-minute. All right, that does it for me. That is a look at SPY, Apple, PLTR, and Google. If there is a stock that you would like me to go over, please let me know.